Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into a topic that's bound to spark some curiosity, maybe even some heated debates in the comments section. What happens when you stop chasing women? I know it sounds like a loaded question, and trust me, it's a journey worth exploring. Whether you're a guy who's been in the dating game for years, someone who's feeling burned out by the chase, or just curious about what happens when you shift your focus, this video is for you. We're going to unpack the psychological, emotional, and even practical changes that come when you decide to stop pursuing women and start prioritizing yourself. So grab a drink, get comfortable, and let's get into it. First off, let's talk about what I mean by chasing women. And for a lot of guys, chasing is that relentless pursuit of romantic validation. It's spending hours crafting the perfect text, swiping endlessly on dating apps, or bending over backward to impress someone you barely know. It's that feeling of always being on, like you're auditioning for a role in someone else's life. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing inherently bad about wanting to connect with someone. Humans are wired for connection. But when the chase becomes your default mode, it can start to take a toll. You might not even realize how much energy you're pouring into it until you step back. So what happens when you hit pause on that chase? Spoiler alert, it's not what you might expect. One of the first things you'll notice when you stop chasing women is a sense of relief. It's like putting down a heavy backpack you didn't even know you were carrying. Think about it. How much mental space do you dedicate to wondering if she'll text back, or if you said the right thing, or if you're enough for her? That constant loop of overthinking can be exhausting. When you decide to let go of that, it's like your brain gets a chance to breathe. You're no longer obsessing over outcomes you can't control. Instead, you start to reclaim that mental energy for yourself. Maybe you finally pick up that book you've been meaning to read, or you dive into a hobby you've neglected. It's not about becoming a monk or swearing off women forever. It's about giving yourself permission to focus on you. Now, this shift doesn't happen overnight. At first, you might feel a little lost. If you're used to chasing, that pursuit can become part of your identity. You might even feel like you're supposed to be out there, flirting, dating, or at least trying. Society doesn't exactly make it easy to step back. We're bombarded with messages that tie a man's worth to his romantic success. Think about all those movies where the hero gets the girl as the ultimate victory. So when you stop chasing, you might wrestle with some guilt or insecurity. You might wonder, am I giving up? Am I less of a man for not trying? Let me be clear. Choosing to focus on yourself isn't giving up. It's a power move. It's saying, my value doesn't depend on someone else's approval. As you settle into this new mindset, something interesting starts to happen. You begin to rediscover who you are outside of the chase. For a lot of guys, chasing women can become a way to fill a void. Maybe it's a need for validation, a fear of being alone, or just a habit you fell into. But when you stop, you're forced to confront those underlying motivations. This can be uncomfortable, but it's also incredibly freeing. You start asking yourself questions like, what do I actually want out of life? What makes me happy when no one else is watching? Now maybe you realize you've been neglecting your passions, your friendships, or even your health. This is where the real growth begins, when you start building a life that feels fulfilling on your own terms. Let's talk about confidence for a second. There's a common misconception that chasing women is what builds confidence. You know, the idea that every approach, every date, every win makes you more secure in yourself. But here's the flip side. Chasing can actually erode your confidence if it's coming from a place of neediness. When you're constantly seeking someone else's approval, you're outsourcing your self-worth. You're letting someone else's response dictate how you feel about yourself. But when you stop chasing, you start to build a different kind of confidence. One that's rooted in self-acceptance. You're not performing for anyone. You're not trying to prove anything. You're just being, and there's a quiet strength in that. This newfound confidence has a ripple effect. People notice it, not just women, but everyone. When you're not chasing, you're not broadcasting desperation or insecurity. You're not trying to win anyone over, which paradoxically makes you more attractive. There's something magnetic about a guy who's comfortable in his own skin, who's focused on his own goals and isn't bending over backward to please others. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. You might even find that women start showing interest in you without you trying. It's not some magical law of attraction nonsense. It's just human nature. People are drawn to those who seem grounded and self-assured. Now let's address the elephant in the room, loneliness. If you stop chasing women, won't you just end up alone? It's a valid fear. Connection is a human need, and romantic relationships can be a big part of that. But here's the thing. Chasing doesn't guarantee connection. In fact, it can sometimes push people away. When you're chasing, you might be so focused on the outcome that you miss out on genuine moments of connection. You might settle for relationships that aren't right for you just because you're afraid of being alone. When you stop chasing, you create space for more authentic relationships, not just with women, but with friends, family, and yourself. You start to value quality over quantity. This shift also changes how you approach dating when you do decide to get back out there. Instead of chasing, you start attracting. You're not desperately swiping or trying to force chemistry where it doesn't exist. You're more selective because you know your worth doesn't hinge on someone saying yes. You're not afraid to walk away from a situation that doesn't feel right because you're not operating from a place of scarcity. You start to see dating as a way to connect, not a game to win. And when you do meet someone special, the relationship has a better chance of being built on mutual respect and genuine interest, rather than neediness or validation seeking. Let's talk about the practical side of things. When you stop chasing, you free up time, money, and energy. Think about how much you've spent on dates, drinks, or even just the mental bandwidth of keeping up with the dating scene. That's not to say dating isn't worth it, but when you're chasing, you might be spending resources on things that don't actually align with your goals. When you redirect that energy, you can invest in yourself, whether it's taking a class, hitting the gym, or just saving up for something that matters to you. It's amazing how much more you can accomplish when you're not constantly distracted by the chase. Another practical benefit is that you start to build stronger friendships. When you're not chasing women, you have more time to nurture the relationships that often get sidelined. Your buddies, your family, your community. These connections are just as important as romantic ones, but they're easy to overlook when you're laser-focused on dating. Plus, having a solid support network makes you less dependent on a romantic partner for emotional fulfillment. You're not putting all your eggs in one basket, which takes the pressure off any potential relationship. Let's dive deeper into the psychological transformation that unfolds when you stop chasing women, because this is where the real magic happens. When you step away from the pursuit, you're not just changing your behavior. You're rewiring how you think about yourself and your place in the world. For many guys, chasing is more than just a habit. It's a way of coping with deeper insecurities or societal pressures. You might have grown up believing that your value as a man is tied to your ability to attract women, or that being single is some kind of failure. These beliefs can run deep, often operating below the surface, driving you to chase even when it doesn't feel good. When you stop, you're forced to confront those beliefs head-on, and that's where the real work begins. It's not just about taking a break from dating. It's about dismantling the idea that your worth is dependent on external validation. This process can be challenging, but it's also profoundly liberating. You start to see yourself not as a performer trying to win approval, but as a complete person with inherent value. This shift in perspective changes everything. You begin to approach life with a sense of curiosity and openness, rather than a need to prove yourself. You might find yourself exploring new interests, not because they'll make you more attractive, but because they genuinely excite you. Maybe you take up painting, or start learning a new language, or finally commit to that fitness routine you've been putting off. These pursuits become a way of expressing who you are, rather than a means to an end. Over time, you build a life that feels rich and meaningful, regardless of your relationship status. This isn't about becoming self-absorbed or cutting yourself off from others. It's about creating a foundation of self-respect that allows you to engage with the world from a place of strength. You start to notice the small victories, like the satisfaction of finishing a project or the joy of a deep conversation with a friend. These moments add up, creating a sense of fulfillment that no amount of chasing could ever provide. But let's be honest, this process isn't always smooth. There are days when you'll doubt yourself, when the old urges to chase will creep back in. You wonder if you're falling behind. These feelings are normal, And they don't mean you're doing anything wrong. They're just part of the journey. The key is to acknowledge them without letting the might see a couple holding hands and feel a pang of longing, or scroll through social media and womb derail you. You might even find it helpful to journal or talk to a trusted friend about what's coming up. These moments of vulnerability are opportunities to learn more about yourself, to uncover what's really driving your desires. Maybe you realize that your urge to chase stems from a fear of rejection or a belief that you're not enough on your own. By shining a light on these patterns, you can start to challenge them, replacing them with healthier beliefs. Over time, you'll find that these urges become less frequent, less intense. You'll start to trust yourself more, to feel at home in your own skin. This inner work has a ripple effect on every area of your life. You become more assertive at work, more present with your friends, more comfortable setting boundaries. You're no longer bending over backward to please others, because you know your worth doesn't depend on their approval. This doesn't mean you become cold or aloof, quite the opposite. You become more authentic, more capable of genuine connection, because you're not approaching interactions with an agenda. You're just showing up as yourself, and that's enough. This authenticity is what draws people to you, whether it's friends, colleagues, or potential partners. You might even notice that your relationships with women become easier, more natural. When you're not chasing, you're not putting pressure on every interaction to go somewhere. You can enjoy a conversation for what it is, without overanalyzing or trying to force an outcome. This takes the stakes out of dating, making it feel less like a performance and more like a shared experience. You might find that you're more attuned to what you actually want in a partner, rather than chasing someone just because they're available or because you feel like you should. This clarity allows you to be more intentional about who you let into your life, which leads to healthier, more fulfilling relationships. But the benefits go beyond romance. When you stop chasing, you start to see the world differently. You become more aware of the beauty in everyday moments, the way the light hits the trees on your morning walk, the laughter of a friend over coffee, the quiet satisfaction of a job well done. These things might sound small, but they're the building blocks of a meaningful life. You start to realize that happiness isn't something you have to chase. It's something you can cultivate right here, right now. This mindset shift is a game changer because it frees you from the trap of always needing more to feel complete. You're no longer waiting for the perfect partner, the perfect job, or the perfect moment to start living. You're already living, and it feels good. Of course, this doesn't mean you'll never feel lonely or crave connection. Those are human experiences, and they don't disappear just because you stop chasing. But you'll handle those feelings differently. Instead of rushing to fill the void with a new pursuit, you'll sit with them, learn from them, and use them as a guide to what you truly need. Maybe you realize you've been neglecting your social life, and you make an effort to reconnect with old friends. Maybe you discover that you're craving creative expression, and you start a new project. These choices come from a place of self-awareness, not desperation, and that makes all the difference. Over time, you'll build a life that's so rich and varied that loneliness becomes less of a threat. You'll still have moments of longing, but they won't define you. Instead, they'll be part of the larger tapestry of your experience, alongside joy, growth, and everything in between. This psychological transformation is a lifelong process, and it's not something you finish. There's always more to learn, more to uncover. But that's what makes it so rewarding. Every step you take toward understanding yourself is a step toward a more authentic, fulfilling life. You're not just stopping the chase. You're starting a new journey, one that's about becoming the best version of yourself, not for anyone else, but for you. Another layer to explore is the social and cultural impact of stepping away from the chase. Because this choice doesn't just affect you, it challenges the narratives we're all fed about what it means to be a man. Society places enormous pressure on men to pursue, to conquer, to win at romance. From pickup artist culture to rom-com tropes, the message is clear. A man's success is measured by his ability to attract a partner. This creates a cycle where men feel compelled to chase, not because they want to, but because they're afraid of what it says about them if they don't. When you stop chasing, you're not just making a personal choice. You're pushing back against this cultural script. You're saying, I don't need to perform masculinity in this way to be valid. This act of defiance can feel radical because it is. It's a rejection of the idea that your worth is tied to your romantic conquests, and it opens the door to a broader conversation about what masculinity can look like. You might inspire others to question their own habits, to consider whether they're chasing out of desire or obligation. This doesn't mean you're starting a revolution, though who knows? But it does mean you're contributing to a shift in how we think about relationships and self-worth. You might notice this shift in your own social circles. Friends who are used to bonding over dating stories might be confused or even defensive when you opt out of the chase. They might tease you or assume you're giving up. This can be tough, especially if you value those friendships. But it's also an opportunity to have deeper conversations. You might explain that you're not against dating, but you're choosing to focus on yourself for now. Some friends will get it, others won't, and that's okay. Over time, you'll gravitate toward people who respect your choices, who value you for who you are, not for how well you play the game. These relationships are more rewarding because they're based on mutual understanding rather than shared performance. On a broader level, your choice to stop chasing can challenge the way society views single men. There's a stigma around being single, especially as you get older. People assume you're lonely, defective, or secretly miserable. But when you live a full, vibrant life without chasing, you become a walking counterargument to that narrative. You show that being single isn't a failure. It's just a state like any other. You might inspire others to embrace their own singlehood, to see it as an opportunity for growth rather than a problem to be fixed. This is especially powerful in a culture that often equates happiness with coupledom. By living authentically, you're proving that there's more than one way to thrive. Of course, this doesn't mean you have to stay single forever. Stopping the chase doesn't mean swearing off relationships. It means approaching them differently. When you do choose to date, you'll do so from a place of confidence and clarity. You'll know what you want, and you won't settle for less. You'll attract partners who value you for who you are, not for how well you perform. These relationships have a better chance of being healthy and lasting, because they're built on mutual respect rather than desperation or societal pressure. But even if you stay single, you'll know that's a valid choice too. You're not defined by your relationship status. You're defined by how you live your life. This perspective also changes how you interact with the world. You become more attuned to the ways society pressures people to conform, not just in dating, but in other areas too. You might start questioning other rules you've been taught about success, status, or happiness. This can lead to a broader awakening, where you start to live more intentionally across the board. Maybe you rethink your career path, or simplify your lifestyle, or prioritize experiences over material things. These choices stem from the same root, a commitment to living on your own terms. This doesn't mean you have to reject everything society tells you, but it does mean you're more discerning. You're not just going along with the script, you're writing your own. This shift can also make you more empathetic. When you stop chasing, you're less focused on your own performance and more present for others. You might notice the struggles of friends who are still caught in the chase, or the ways women are pressured to conform to certain roles in dating. This awareness can make you a better friend, a better listener, a better human. You start to see the humanity in everyone, not just as potential partners or competitors, but as people navigating their own complex lives. This empathy strengthens your relationships, romantic or otherwise, because it allows you to connect on a deeper level. You're not just exchanging pleasantries, you're sharing real moments of vulnerability and understanding. Over time, this creates a ripple effect. Your choice to stop chasing doesn't just change you, it changes the way you show up in the world, and that impacts everyone around you. You might not see the full extent of this impact, but it's there. A friend might rethink their own dating habits because of a conversation with you. A colleague might feel inspired to pursue a passion they've been ignoring. Even strangers might pick up on your confidence and authenticity and carry that energy forward. This is the power of living intentionally. It's not just about you. It's about the mark you leave on the world. Of course, this journey isn't without its challenges. Society doesn't always reward those who step off the beaten path. You might face judgment or feel like you're swimming against the current. But those challenges are part of what makes this path so rewarding. Every time you choose yourself over societal expectations, you're building resilience. You're proving that you can thrive on your own terms, no matter what anyone else thinks. And that's a legacy worth leaving. So as you move forward, remember that stopping the chase isn't just about dating. It's about redefining what it means to live a good life. It's about choosing authenticity over performance, growth over validation, and yourself over the script. It's a journey, and it's one worth taking. So what's the takeaway here? Stopping the chase isn't about giving up on love or connection. It's about redefining what those things mean to you. It's about building a life that's so fulfilling that a relationship becomes a bonus, not a necessity. It's about trusting that the right person will show up when the time is right. And in the meantime, you're not sitting around waiting. You're out there living, growing, and becoming the kind of person you'd want to date. That's the real power of letting go of the chase. It's not about losing something, it's about gaining yourself. All right, that's it for today's video. I want to hear from you. What's your experience with chasing or stepping back from it? Drop a comment below, and let's keep the conversation going. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up, share it with a friend, and don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.